Okay, I am sitting here with my dad, and today is his 82nd birthday. And so I went back and I looked to see what happened in the year 1937. And some things were like the Golden Gate Bridge opened. Okay.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, the Hindenburg blew up.
Right.
The Amelia Earhart went missing. I mean, all kind of stuff that like you hear about in the history books. Are you going to be in the history books?
Probably not.
Well, you're going to be in my history books forever.
Good.
So
Thank you.
I thought this would be a great opportunity because how many times in life do we wish, gosh, I wish we had this information about my grandparent or my parent or whatever. And so this is going to be something for generations to come that they can know a little bit something about Grandpa Parker.
Thank you, Stephanie, and I'm glad that you are doing this because I had intended for many years of interviewing my grandmother, Olive Hidred, and I always thought that we had time to do it next week.
Oh, yeah.
And
Yeah.
she lived to be 97, and I still regret never having videoed her with the background that she had because she was born in the gold fields of California in 1895, went by covered wagon in the opposite direction to New Orleans, and then from New Orleans to Cuba for 3 years.
Wow. And then what else do you know about her? Because this is good stuff for me to have right here on this video.
It is good family background and history.
Yeah.
They went to Cuba, and her husband ran a sugar plantation down there. And then they left there and went to Okeechobee and went through the big hurricane. I think it was either 1927 or 29 when they killed 4,000 or 5,000 people when the hurricane came through.
Yeah.
And there was no dike there to hold the water back, and they literally drowned them.
Wow. Now, what was it? Was it Grandma Mamie or Grandma Parker? Something about the Panama Canal.
Yeah, it was Grandma Mamie. That's where my mother, Nona Parker, was born in 1912
Wow.
in the Canal Zone, Panama. So she was an American citizen. And her father was a pharmacist down there during the building of the Panama Canal, and had a lot of malaria, and all. And they were there for maybe a couple or 3 years. And then for some reason, my grandmother left him and took my mother with her to Florida.
So Grandma Mamie was born, do you know where she was born?
In California, in the gold fields.
She was born in California, and then Grandma Parker was born in Panama.
Canal Zone,
on the Canal Zone, Panama. And then you were born where?
I was born in Polk County, Florida, in Brewster, which was a town about 10 miles south of Mulberry.
Mulberry, yeah.
And there's no town there now.
Oh, really?
And I was born at home January the 15th, 1937 at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And it was on a Saturday. And the doctor came out to the home to deliver me that Saturday morning, and I'm told that he sat around for several hours and decided that he was going to leave and just call him somehow, I guess, if they had a telephone, we got rid of it out. But my dad wouldn't let him leave. And so I was born at home and cost all of $25.
So that's all it took to have George Parker come
That's
to the
right.
world.
That's right.
$25.
That's all I was worth.
Well, you are worth it more now. Okay, so tell me something else about your family, like siblings. Tell us.
My sister's 4 years younger than me. She was born in 1941, and that's Jacqueline Nona Parker.
So 41, so I never realized that, how y'all were 4 years apart, and then all of us children, we were 4 years apart.
She was born in 1940. I thought it was 4.
Okay, so 3 years apart.
No, 4 years.
4 years apart.
Yeah.
So yeah, so it was like Kenneth and Kevin and Mike. 4 years later, Kenneth. 4 years later, me.
Right.
So that's a little system going there. Huh,
Right.
interesting. I like numbers. I'm about numbers here. Okay, well, tell me about you as a boy. What were some hobbies or things that were interesting to you? Because now you see kids like this, on
Right.
playing games or phones or
Right.
what did y'all do?
I was an avid reader
Oh, really?
from early on. As soon as I could read, I read thousands of books probably. And some of my fondest memories in the reading thing was my grandfather Parker's home in Brewster.
Hmm.
He had 80 acres and a big frame home he built himself. And he was a sawmill man. He pulled the lever of a sawmill for 50 years. But he had a room on the back of his house that was probably 30 feet long and 12 feet wide, and had shelves in there for canned goods because they
Yeah.
did their own canning of meats and vegetables. But in one corner of the room was about a supply of probably 30 or 40 years of Life magazine and Look magazine and Time magazine. And these went all the way back before I was born.
Hmm.
And I was fascinated with history.
Mm-hmm.
And I spent many a week out there in the summertime, out of school, of course. And I would go in that room and get a whole stack of magazines and just read them and look through them.
Yeah.
And that was fun. Particularly, they had a lot of pictures of World War II and the bombing and everything that went on.
Now, is that the type of history that you were most fascinated with? Was like the wars and everything that was going on?
Most boys are.
Yeah, absolutely.
And my favorite was the Civil War.
Yeah. Yeah. I know my children, especially Holly and Cole, they enjoy history. And so
Get it
maybe
naturally.
they kind of get, that's right, they get it naturally. So now what about like novels? You talked about the magazines. Did you have any books that you enjoyed reading?
Gosh, yes, I had a complete series of the Hardy Boys.
I love the Hardy Boys. Those and the Hardy Boys, and what was Jane? No, what was the girl one? I don't remember what it was. I don't remember, but some kind of a mystery thing.
Right.
Oh, that's neat. Okay, so now let me think about this. When you grew up reading all these magazines, okay, I'm going to tie this into your occupation later in life.
Right.
Were you interested just in the reading part, or knowing that what you've done in the past, you were an editor and creator of newspapers and everything, did you like the details of how things were laid out, even in the pictures and the way the articles were performed? Do you think that helped you with your career
I'm
later?
sure it had a great influence on my career. When we lived in Tampa, we lived in my grandmother's home out there for probably 6 months, and then Dad became employed in Tampa in the shipyard, and we moved to Tampa for about 6 or 7 years.
Do you remember where in Tampa you lived?
1017 East Henry Avenue.
Really? I'm going to have to Google that up now. Okay.
At that time, it was a 2-story home, and I thought it was a huge house
Oh, yeah.
at that time. And the inside wasn't finished, at least upstairs, and my bedroom was upstairs. And you could see daylight through the cracks in the walls.
Mm-hmm.
And consequently, we had big house spider.
Oh, I can't stand spiders.
Quite novel at that time. But I can remember one time waking up in the middle of the night and I had about 6 blankets on me. It was so cold up there. But I thought there was something unusual, and I opened my eyes and this spider was just sitting over my
Oh,
face.
no, thank you.
And I came out of that bed and could have walked on water. But I was flailing around, and I don't know what happened to that spider. I never did find him. But,
He's gone.
Yep, he's gone.
Yeah. He's no longer alive. All right, so you lived in Tampa for 6 years, and then what?
They moved to Plant City
Mm-hmm.
in 1949,
Mm-hmm.
and 303 East Lee Street.
Ah,
And
that's good how you remember these addresses.
it's just like one of the first telephone numbers I remember in Plant City was a sheriff's department,
Uh-huh.
236,
Uh-huh. Just the 3 numbers.
3 digits,
Yeah.
not 10.
Well, that's like I remember our home number growing up, and 737, blah 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 blah. But then we had party lines too,
Mhm.
and we would often just do the last 4 numbers I think back then, and you would have to wait. Usually, my Aunt Violet was always on the phone, and you hear a breather or something. You're like, Aunt Violet, are you on the phone?
The community radio station.
Yeah, yeah.
You got the latest news, she knew it all.
Yeah, absolutely. So party lines, people were always connected back then.
Right.
Okay, so you lived in Plant City on Lee Street,
Mhm.
and then how long were you there, and what happened? What grade were you in?
Let's see,
So that was 49.
the 6th grade through
Mhm.
high school. Mother was the produce buyer at Smith Brothers Grocery, which
Huh.
burned down to where Waller's Hardware
Yes.
was, now it's Waller's Power Equipment or
On
something.
the corner of
like that.
Bossa Brook and Collins Street.
Right, right.
Okay.
And we had an apartment above that. There were 5 apartments there.
Huh.
And I lived there until I married your mother, Judy West.
Yeah. Now, so you graduated from, was it the 1914 high school, or?
We were the last junior class in the 1914 high school on North Collins Street.
Yeah.
And the first senior class at the old high school, which is now what, middle school?
At Tomlin.
Right,
So you graduated at Tomlin, that building.
right. But it was the Plant City High
It was
School.
Plant City High School.
Right.
And that's where I finished my retirement, was
Right.
at Tomlin Middle School.
Wow.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
So then, okay, so when did you meet Mom?
Probably, let's see, 1958,
Yeah.
yeah.
Now, this is a story I always heard, and tell me if this was true or not. Something about she worked at like an ice cream place, and you ordered a banana split, and she gave it to you and forgot to put the bananas in there.
That's a true story.
That's
And
funny.
in high school, I was editor of the Spokesman
Mhm.
for 2 years. In the last 2 years I was there. In junior high school, I was editor of whatever that publication was called.
Mhm.
I was always fascinated with, at that time, I thought how informative to the people was, and what a great service newspapers perform.
Mhm.
And of course, now things have changed considerably with all the fake news.
Yeah.
But while I was in high school, beginning in my junior year, I worked after school at the Plant City Courier and wrote sports, and then began in my senior year. I covered the local courts, and when I got out of school, the only year I went to Florida Southern College, but I worked after school at the Courier then.
So you went to Florida Southern College, and you were you going in for like journalism or something? Or?
That's exactly what I did.
Yeah.
And
And then you had a son. One of your sons, Kenneth, graduated from Florida Southern
that's
College.
right.
Huh.
And I've been blessed because, of course, you graduated from the University of Central Florida.
Mhm.
Mike graduated from the University of Florida.
Yeah.
And Kevin went to Hillsborough Community College.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget, after I had left the Brandon News in 1976, Kevin was working for the Farm and Ranch News, which I had started in 1974.
Mhm.
and he was working for me and going to the community college. And he came in the office one day and says, "Dad, I'm wasting my time and your money in going to community college." He said, "I'm gonna quit and get married and live forevermore happily and make a fortune in hanging garage doors."
He's not doing garage doors anymore, but he is happily married and doing well.
That's exactly right. I've been blessed. All of my children are
Yeah.
Christians and contributing to society,
Yeah.
and have really never asked me for anything. And
But you know, I think our childhood was wonderful. I mean, you know, we were the perfect little Parker family growing up. We didn't need or want for anything because we had it. I mean, we were very blessed. I mean, you and Mom took good care of us, and so thank you. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
I've been blessed.
Yeah, but I know, I've realized, like, you know, how Kevin said that to you. I mean, I've felt the same way. College is not for everyone. I've personally experienced that with one of my own children, and he's successful now, and he's doing wonderful. So, yeah, it seems like nowadays kids, especially since I was a teacher and I saw it, people would always, you know, before 6th grade, they were drilling, college. And some of the kids, you could tell that they just weren't going to be college material, or even some of them did have college material, but they had their passions elsewhere. So I'm glad to see a lot of the trades and all coming back, because we need the good American trade workers.
Absolutely. I think that was one of the failings of our public school system, is they put too much emphasis at that time on you can't be successful if you don't go to college. And I'll never forget when I was at the Brandon News in 1961 in Brandon, Florida. I was vice president of the Rotary Club there. And
Are you a Rotarian?
I was a Rotarian and a Kiwanian at the same time.
Tim's a
Which-
Rotarian.
Yeah. And we had a guest speaker that came from academia, and he came and made a really nice speech and said that nobody would be successful in our country without a college education. And here I am, a one-year college boy, as a publisher of probably at that time the largest
Yeah.
weekly newspaper in the state.
Yes.
And I didn't disagree with him or argue with him. It really would have made no difference, you know, because I'm sure he was part of the academia, who were very socially liberal.
Well, I remember going to the Brandon News as a little girl, and it was behind Scogan's.
Right,
And we'd always get Buster Brown shoes and stuff like that at Scogan's.
right.
And then, and your office was right there. And, but yeah, a lot of good memories. And then you created your own newspaper, the Farm and Ranch News,
Right.
which was with the Farm Bureau right away, or what?
They were, the Farm Bureau for 34 years was my base subscription. And at one time, I was publishing 5 editions in 9 counties. And it was just too much. So I combined everything into one publication and made it much easier for us.
Well, I remember many years we would have the newspaper parties where everybody in the neighborhood, not that we had a neighborhood, but out in the country, you know, we would all go and we would be labeling the newspapers and tying the newspapers up and having the black fingertips all the time.
Right, once a month.
Yeah.
We would take the papers into the family room
Yeah.
and peel the address labels off and strip them onto the paper.
Yeah.
And then part of the reward, besides getting paid, and I'm sure it was very minimal, $1 an hour.
I don't know if I got paid for that.
You probably didn't. You were having so much fun, you
Yeah,
thought it
yeah.
wasn't a job.
It was a party.
Yeah. Well, we did cook hamburgers and all, and everybody thought that was great.
But I think some of the detail-oriented things that I like in my life now was from you having your shop out at the barn, at the house, and I remember back then, nothing was computer generated. We didn't have the computers.
That's true.
But it was the tape and the typing and the copy and the paste and all of that stuff and how things are laid out, and you were a master at all of that. It was fun.
Thank you. Other people have not said that.
Well, I enjoyed it. I guess that was part of the creative side. So now you, okay, so let's move this part along before we get to some other faith-based kind of stuff too, and some insight on strengths and weaknesses and all that. So you married Judy,
Right.
and y'all were married for 27 years.
25.
25 years.
Right.
And so then after that, and that was a crazy time in our lives,
Mm-hmm.
but the last 11 years, how long have you been married to Wanda? 10 years?
10 years.
The past 10 years, you have been celebrating your bride with Wanda.
Right.
So, and she, I know, has been a blessing in your life.
Yes.
So
She straightened me up.
I believe the bookends of your marriage life have been wonderful for you. Can't say so much for the middle part, but the bookends have
That's
been
right.
wonderful.
That's right. That's right.
I guess that's the juicy part in that part, but this is the meaningful part right here. Okay, Dad, so let's see. Tell me about you being a Christian. When did you first accept Jesus into your heart?
I was 12 years old, 1949, and living with my grandmother,
Grandma
Olive,
Mamie.
Grandma Mamie, Olive Beauty, in Punta Gorda. And thanks to her, she was the first person that I attended church with.
Oh, do you remember what church?
Port Charlotte,
Mhm.
First Baptist Church of Charlotte Harbor.
Huh.
And they're on the north side of the Peace River.
Mhm.
And I was saved and baptized in the Peace River
Mhm.
at that time. Didn't have a
Wow.
baptismal.
Yeah. Yeah.
This was an old-fashioned frame church, and we went down to the river to be baptized.
Yes. That's neat, and especially because it's the Peace River, because you come out of that and you've got nothing but peace.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
So I was 12 years old as well whenever I was baptized, and I know for me it's been a roller coaster of life. What about you? Was it always easy in your faith to be a Christian, or can you look back and see examples in your life that has either made you stronger or given you peace or a big hiccup or whatever? Anything you want to share?
To me, it wasn't difficult because I was one of the goody two-shoes boys in school, and consequently, probably half the boys were on the other side of the fence. But I was very fortunate to have some good friends.
Good,
They were all Christians.
good. Surround yourself with people like that, encourage
Merle
one another.
Henry, retired pharmacist in Plant
Yeah.
City. Ray McEachin.
Ray McEachin?
McEachin, retired businessman from North Tampa. Ron Tucker,
Yeah.
who when he played football in Plant City High School, became very adept at kicking field goals. In his senior year, we won 3 games on the basis of his field goal kicking.
Huh.
So, and I was writing sports at that time, and nicknamed him the Toe. And he got a scholarship to the University of Miami, and went on to be a successful businessman.
Good. Who else? So there was three of those friends. Anybody else you can remember that
Let's
helped keep
see.
you strong?
Gosh, right at the moment, Stephanie, my
Yeah.
mind's, I'm 82 years old, my mind's going blank. And unfortunately, I have outlived most of them.
Yeah.
you know.
Yes.
Although those particular ones are still with us.
Yep. That's right. I saw Aunt Tommy, Uncle Merle's wife, today when I was working out, and she said, "Tell you happy birthday." Yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely. So what else about your Christian walk? So during the high school years, you surrounded yourself by
With
good
good
Christian
people.
boys, and that helped you to stay strong.
Right,
Okay.
right. And when Another influential person in my life was Deputy Sheriff J.R. Fluellen,
Hmm.
who office was right in the building where Merle Henry's drugstore was
Mhm.
located. And he was a tremendous influence because when he first went to work as a young person, he worked for the railroad. And somehow he was on the ladder of a moving train, and he slipped off, and it cut off both of his legs.
Oh, my.
And once he healed and all, he got a job with the Elizabeth County Sheriff's Department,
Really?
and was in Plant City. He ran the office and decided that they would start a junior deputy sheriff's league.
Mm-hmm.
They had one in Tampa, and he started one in Plant City.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess probably 60 or 70 young men in Plant City High School and Turkey Creek or anywhere else they wanted to come from became junior deputy sheriff.
Hmm.
And I was elected the first chief.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, congratulations, Chief George.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, and at that time we provided free security at the Strawberry Festival.
Ah.
We'd walk the fences and catch those trying to come over, and we thought that was just wonderful.
Did they arm y'all with anything?
No,
No.
no, not at all.
So, okay, now thinking about the newspaper and thinking about Plant City too, I just had a thought. Wasn't there a time you did something with the Courier, or was that just in high school?
No, I worked there in high school, and then after high school, while I was going to Florida Southern College.
Okay.
And then well, unfortunately, I decided somewhat like Kevin did, only at the Florida Southern. I had a journalism professor who was a retired New York Times newspaper man, and which was probably true. I became somewhat bored because I had more experience in advertising and writing different things than he did.
Oh my.
Because all he did, and he showed us some pictures of him at the New York Times, was sitting at a Royal typewriter and just write whatever they gave him.
Yeah, and you were out there with the people and doing all areas of the
Right,
newspaper.
and so I was quite bored.
Yeah.
With the main reason I went to Florida Southern College
Mhm.
to study journalism.
Yeah,
So I quit,
Huh.
and I went to work full-time with the Plant City Courier.
there you go. And how long were you with the Courier before you did Brandon News?
Well, they were owned by the same person.
Yeah.
I was at the Courier for 3 years, and then 16 years with the Brandon News.
All right, very good. All right, so tell me about sticking to the Christian thing in your walk with Christ. Has there been a time of your life where there's been like a rededication? You know, like,
Yes, and it's about the time I met Wanda.
mhm.
And yes, that's when I came back, because I was a happy bachelor for 20 years, I thought.
Yeah. You were searching for happiness, but
Right.
it really wasn't true happiness.
That's exactly right.
Mhm.
And I'll never forget, she was attending,
Church of the Rock, or
yes, thank you,
uh-huh.
the Church of the Rock. And so I showed up one Sunday morning and sat right down on the front row. And the pastor at that time was just tickled to death because he thought I had come to hear him preach. And Wanda was in the choir. And understanding he was a little bit dismayed or disappointed that I didn't really come to hear him preach. I came to see her. And but after that, we went to the Old Berea Baptist Church, which was later Parkway, and the pastor there married us, and ever since then we've been active in our churches.
Yeah, very good, very good. Okay, well, so tell me about something what do you think is a strength of yours?
Trusting God in all things. It's difficult,
It is, yeah.
difficult sometimes.
Yeah.
Because
Definitely.
unfortunately, in some of my years,
The
I always
wonder
prayed
years.
to God to give me direction.
Mhm.
Well, He would. And it was like going down a highway and the road splits. And over here is God's way.
Mhm.
And that was the easy way.
Mm.
And for some reason, I would always,
Want a challenge?
yeah, I'd say, that looks too easy, God. I've got to go over here and beat my head against the wall. And it would, I'm sure it was the devil involved, but
Oh, yeah.
there would be that split in the road, and too many times I took the wrong way, thinking that the other way was too easy, and
Mhm.
God had made it easy.
Mhm.
Perfect example, to digress, is that when I graduated from Plant City High School in 1956, I'd already had a job for that summer at Hopkins Funeral Home.
Oh, I remember hearing stories about Hopkins.
Yeah, you stab them, we slap them. But the day after I graduated from high school, my mother, I went home that night after being at the funeral home, twiddling my thumbs, waiting for business, you know. My mother said, "Son," said, "Chief of Police Bob Spooner would like for you to come down to his office tomorrow." She didn't know what it was, and I certainly didn't know what it was. And so I went to see Chief of Police Bob Spooner, who was a retired FBI agent. And he was about 6'7" or 8", weighed 250 pounds maybe. Great, great chief, good policeman. So I walked into his office and said, "Here I am." And he says, "Sit down, George." He was a very affable person. And he says, "How would you like to go to Washington and work for the FBI?" And I said, "Well, that sounds pretty good to me." And he says, "Well, here's the scoop." He says, "I want you to go over to Tampa, talk to whoever the agent in charge was. And if you want to go up there, you can go to work for the FBI and live with an FBI agent and attend George Washington University."
And this is all, and you were at the time working in a funeral home,
Right.
and you were the
Prepared.
chief of the little,
Yeah.
the junior deputy deal,
Right.
but no background for FBI.
Oh, nothing. And I would have done that, except I was dating a sweet young thing from Bartow who said, "Oh, I can't get along without you." And I let the devil pull me to the side and didn't go.
Mhm. Well, hey, well, I'm glad, because then I wouldn't be here and you wouldn't ended up meeting my mom.
You're right. That's true. That's
Yeah,
true.
yeah.
So they're great blessings
That's right.
out of failures.
Blessings in disguise. Yes, there is. Absolutely. And that makes me think, earlier today we had birthday lunch, and you had made the comment about how you always look at the positive in things. And I'm the same way. I mean, Tim thinks my song should be, "Don't worry, be happy," because I'm like, it's all gonna work out, you know, it's okay. And so even in that situation there,
Right.
you know, you thought, oh no, you know, which way do I take? But the bad situation you thought, God ended up turning it in for good in the end. But for you, at first it was a struggle.
It's true.
Because you wanted to go to FBI once you were enticed with it, but then the girl was kind of like, no.
and probably had the fork in the road.
Mm-hmm.
Had I gone over to Tampa and talked to the FBI agent, I would have been in Washington.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm glad it didn't work out for you. Oh, okay, so your strength was about God. I already forgot it. You know, I'll have to watch the video. Tell me again what your strength was.
Well, what did I say my strength was?
You're talking about.
God would lead you in the right direction
Mhm.
if you don't allow the distractions
Mhm.
to pull you off the road that you were intended to go.
Amen, brother. Now, what about your weakness? What would you say a weakness is?
Weaknesses? Overanalyzing.
Mm-hmm.
Overanalyzing opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
Looking at situations too long,
Mm-hmm.
which is overanalyzing, of course.
Mm-hmm.
But not trusting wholly
Mm-hmm.
in believing that God can overcome anything,
Mm-hmm.
and you just let Him do it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, don't ask, well, how am I going to do this?
Right.
Just leave it up to God. He'll provide the way to do it.
Right. You just have to have the faith to step out and do it.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Because He's not just going to say, "Here you go." You got to work a little bit. You know, you got to put forth the effort there.
And I've got to, you know, I've been blessed.
Mm-hmm.
God would not have allowed me to live to this young age,
Yeah.
because I still think in my mind I'm 35, no, well, probably 45 to 50 years old.
So what do you think keeps you thinking that you're young? Making you feel that you're young? Because I know you don't think you're young, but.
Being around young people
Mm-hmm.
and inheriting somehow those genes, like from my grandmother Mamie,
Mm-hmm.
because even at 97 she thought young,
Yeah.
and been blessed with Wanda.
Mm-hmm.
She's young and she thinks young.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And what about, like I met a lady today, and she's going to be 89 this year, and she was telling me how she keeps her mind fresh, and that's how she feels young. And she's working out. We're working out together.
Right.
And she was talking about how she does mind associations, and she thinks that keeps her young too. Do you do anything to like exercise your mind?
I still read a lot, and I watch the TV programs that are inspiring,
Mm-hmm.
and particularly in the area of history and current events and all. I like to know what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
And thought at one time, probably, that I could change the world. You know. In 1976, I ran for Hillsborough County Commissioner.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I knew the year before that I wanted to do that. And there again, it reached that fork in the road where God would have provided what I needed at that time had I gone ahead and stepped out
Mm-hmm.
and campaigned, you know, a year and a half in advance. Instead, I waited till the last day to file,
Mm-hmm.
had a 6 weeks campaign, in running, and the main reason I ran, we had a county commissioner then that I knew was crooked, and I said, well, nobody else will run against him, I will. And I was published in the Brandon News then. Wrongly, I thought everybody knew me, you know, at least in Brandon, but not throughout the county, which was a countywide race. And so it was not a successful campaign, but made a lot of good people.
Mm-hmm.
But had I started sooner
Mm-hmm.
and not gone through that procrastination bit,
Mm-hmm.
you know, that I think it could have been different.
Yeah. You know what? I remember those days too. I remember going and handing out
Right.
vote George Parkside. They were orange and blue too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that. Now, what about if you had to write a letter to your younger self, thinking back through all the stages you've been through in your 82 years, what is something you would tell your younger self?
Trust God implicitly in all things.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't matter how small, doesn't matter how large.
Mm-hmm.
Just trust God.
Mm-hmm.
Seek His consolation
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Every day.
every day.
Every day in every situation. Absolutely. Well, I have told you this several times before, and I've written about it on Soaking Up the Sun, but I want to make sure I get it on here too, because the change that I have seen in my daddy's life, I know that, like I mentioned earlier, we grew up the perfect Parker family, and everything was all great and everything. And then we had a time in our life, then it wasn't so great, and I'm the youngest of the 4 kids, and I was 18, I think, when you and Mom got divorced. And then there was probably 10 years, because I was pregnant with Cole, when you and I had a conversation one time. And I remember that I cried and I prayed and all of this, and we sat down. We had a beautiful conversation, because I think as any time anything happens in life that's a devastation, sometimes people distance themselves from each other and from people who you've either hurt in the past or you've loved and all of this. And so I worked on building it together, and we had that conversation, and I remember telling you at the time that as a man, I didn't respect you then, but you're my dad, and I love you, and I'll always love you. Then through years, and it took many years for us we kept that relationship going. I think that's what it takes. So many times in life is you have to just keep at it, and our communication would get better. The relationship with the other members of the family would get better. And then here it was, I don't know, I'm 50, so however many years later, I've told you this now, that not only are you my daddy and I love you, but now you are a man that I respect.
Thank you.
And I honor you. And we're
do.
told to honor our parents, and I do. And but I thank you for even the struggles in your life and the struggles in my life, and just seeing how life works out, because just because you're a Christian doesn't mean that life is going to be easy and perfect. God may show us that easy road, and we want to take that more challenging thing because we think our way might be better. We can improve it easy. But even in those times in our life, God will, like you said earlier, He will turn those crazy things into something positive. And I think our relationship now is rich. You're funny. You love my children. You love your family. And it shows. And I just hope that through this video here even, my children and my grandchildren and all, until Jesus comes, will be able to see Grandpa Parker and how you're a man of God. And yeah, you went through some wandering ways like we all do. But you're here, and you are a strong Christian man, and you love Jesus.
Amen.
And you always want to make sure that others keep Christ first in their life.
It's true.
Yeah.
And I would advise my great grandchildren, whatever it is, 150, 200 years from now, that you can serve the Lord through community service.
Mm-hmm.
And be looking for those opportunities. Don't just go through life having fun.
Right.
I've served on the Hillsborough County Civil Service Commission for 10 years.
Yeah.
5 years as chairman.
Yeah.
I was on the founding director of the bank board in Brandon, Barnett Bank.
Yeah.
And Brandon Community Hospital,
Mhm.
same thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I did those things because I had the opportunity to
Mm-hmm.
in the position I was in.
Mm-hmm.
But I had some really good people that worked with me and for me
Mm-hmm.
at the Brandon News.
Mm-hmm.
they made my job easy.
But even with the accolades back then, now you don't have the accolades that you have, but you still serve.
Right,
You
in church.
You do, you
and
serve in
the
church.
communities.
Yep, absolutely. And you're one of the founding fathers or whatever, I think, of the Hillsborough County Fair.
27 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So keep serving Jesus, your family, your community, and share God.
Thank you, Stephanie.
Thank you.
God bless you.
I love you. And happy 82nd birthday. Mwah. All right. Happy birthday.